long ago, when I stood before mankind in my embodiment as St. Francis of Assisi, and spake unto the multitude and said, Lord, make me an instrument of thy peace. 'Twas with a sense of my soul's longing to see the world brought to a state of rectitude, where awareness of the mighty unfolding love of God would remove the grime and soil of man's misery and bring to him the subtle spiritual radiance which is his immortal birthright. Oh, the relief, the wonderful cosmic release, the power and the purity that there is in exalted vision, when men can forsake themselves and all that they hold dear, to find no continuing city in the world of form, but to recognize the world as a forum for divine experience and the acquiring of holy knowledge, the offering of themselves as a divine Pavolero, the embracing of Mother Poverty in this essential factor, to give all that they are into the keeping of God, they will find that they are not long in poverty. For when a man becomes God-identified, holding back no portion of himself, the middle wall of partition is broken down between the shore of his mortal being and his immortal consciousness, and there flows a living current of divine blessing across the gulf fixed between, and the twain become one. In the radiance of peace that then manifests, the soul finds a comfort never expressed with the mere possession of material objects. I think, without going into detail, if I were to speak to you tonight and remind you of the numerous times when you have sought for some material gain, only to receive it and to find that it did not supply you with the happiness you expected, you would acclaim with me that this is true, and you would acknowledge that only an inner peace of soul and an absolute sense of compliance with God's will can true peace be known and retained. As the divine Pavolero, which title mankind have given me since, I found a new richness in the sun and the wind and the birds of the field and the beauty of nature. But most of all, I reveled in the light in men's eyes, which in a fashion, as it were, played hide and seek with me, coming at times into manifestation and then dashing behind the veil of their consciousness as they sought to conceal their divine fervor even from my gaze. For many of the dear monks and brothers that were embodied with me seem to feel that it might become sacrilegious if they themselves were to manifest as much of God as they saw in me. And this charity of their Christian hearts did touch my soul, and while I seldom spoke of it, I noted it and evoked in holy prayer a greater radiance of blessing upon them for their Christly charity and consideration for my office as the head of the Franciscan Brothers. Yet, blessed ones, my being today surges into new dimensions and areas of service, for I now, in holding the office of world teacher together with beloved Jesus, feel a sense of responsibility for many sheep and for many sheepfolds upon this blessed planet, desiring to see the mankind of earth come in the light of holy understanding to that unity of hearts that will enable them to exalt religious experience into the reality of their own being without shame or without display, but in that perfect balance that occurs as a most natural outpicturing and outflowering of the radiance of their soul. And when this holy light shines forth into manifestation, it can but be a cause of rejoicing to those who have eyes to see and behold it. For God's light, which is the light that never shone upon land or sea, shines forth only in the human heart here, and its radiance is unmistakably lovely, an enduring substance that passes into areas of eternity and completely leaves behind the sense of time consciousness. For when men come apart, as it were, into our timeless realm, the octave of ascended consciousness, they are then made aware of the nearness of both the past and the present hour and the future. And they recognize the wonderful opportunities which God has given to all in the compartments of living known as time and space, an area where the holy light of God is distributed in varying and variegated shades of color and density and compassion and holy reason and strands of divine love, holding the whole upon the great loom of life to weave a tapestry of peace over mankind's wrongly imposed tapestry of war with its uncomfortable manifestations of pain and destruction. In this hour, as in every hour in the past, the radiance of God and all that he stands for is within the frame of man's temporal being and is without in space to hallow space with his love. Just as mankind without the benefit of a radio detector cannot understand or hear the voices of the air sent over the radio waves, so mankind without the detector of a pure longing within themselves and faith in God cannot hear the vibratory actions of the great sweep of his consciousness as it consistently turns the light toward every living soul and manifests naught of shadow, but only the purity of his perfection and his blessings. Ye came together then in this holy conclave, that ye might come into greater contact with those of our band and receive the vibratory action of our love, and we have poured it out from the very chalice of our ascended state into your consciousness, your mind, your heart, and we have touched the cells of your being with a tingling elixir of electronic substance to make you aware of the omnipresence of our state, that the hope that is in us might become the hope that is in you, that thus in days to come, our band might be joined by numbers of yours in an illustrious golden circle of light, that you also might permit us to graduate and to rise to higher octaves, eventually to leave the very face of this planet and turn over to those of you who have made yourselves worthy the responsibility for mankind yet unascended. This is a necessary part of living, for as mankind become first of all but a babe in consciousness, and then a youth, and then an adult, and last of all a mature individual, so the various stages of existence must be fulfilled. And as some come forth into identity with the beginning consciousness of a child, others must go on to take graduate and postgraduate work, moving on into the universities of celestial light, which God holds so dear in the higher octaves, and assimilating the strands of his holy love into the wondrous consecrated ideals which are within the tabernacle of men's hearts. Whether men are ascended as we are, or remain yet upon earth, the wondrous Akashic light substance that is within their heart, with all of its plasticity, is so willing to mirror the holy radiance of God and retain it. Yet mankind, in ignorance, have recorded within their being so much that itself brings them discomfort and pain. We would then apply the balm and unguent of God's peace to the hearts of men, bringing to them the wonderful feeling that is from on high. This feeling was manifest in the song of the angels to the shepherds, and accounts for the reverence which mankind hold to this present hour for the Christian birth of the Christ called Jesus, my co-worker, and he whom I love with all my heart. Now then, most precious ones, this very hour, he joins me in good wishes and in goodwill to you all, then in memory of his service in Galilee and in Nazareth of long ago, you will recognize that he desired to frame for the world immortal precepts that would make of all nations one in peace and harmony. He was truly a carpenter of Nazareth who would bring the framework of God's temple of universal peace to the nations, removing from mankind the fetters and bondage which had been created for so long through the wrong use of thought and feeling, and giving the healing touch of his hand, the radiance of his seamless garment, and the compassion of his golden mind to mankind, that they might bask in his light and emulate him, to become then, raised as he was, into the glorious ritual of the ascension. Now that drama, in part, was outpictured in the holy services builded upon your own cultural achievements in the opera which you witnessed in part. The ministrations of the angels which came during this demonstration of ritualistic compassion accounts for some of the grand and wondrous feelings that surged within your hearts through this service and throughout this class. Your own precious Saint Germain, in his great unwavering love for freedom, desires then to see more rituals expressed in the coming days, that the consciousness of man, so long abused by the power of wrong habits and human discord, may outpicture in memory the beautiful patterns and rituals of the Spirit, that men may not only aspire, but may fill their being with that to which they aspire. In this holy sense, then, as I prepare to take my leave of you, I urge you all to hold in reverence God's peace and his love. The simple gifts which he gave cannot possibly change their nature. The restless nature of man, seething and surging with passions of discontent, does not bring peace and cannot do so. But to give all unto God means that by the power of his law, he is obligated to give all unto the giver. For the laws of God are inviolate, and there is no one, as I found out by personal experience, who gives all without reserve unto God, that does not, by infinite law, the law of cosmic demand, find that in return the abundance of heaven is poured out in the rich stream of cosmic happiness that comes forth from the fountain of life within the heart and exalts the being of man into the holy fervor which has charged the lives of the saints with God's perfection and infinite knowledge. This knowledge is so far above the intellectual approaches of mankind today that it cannot be compared with that knowledge. And yet we, of course, are possessed with the most scientific understanding of the most detailed of mankind's own experiences, which are but fragments of the holy truths that are revealed to us in one instant. I assure you that if we would, we could eclipse all of the accomplishments of man by one movement of our hand or heart. And yet we have no desire to impress mankind, for when you come into this octave of consciousness and find your every wish bestowed instantly upon you as a fulfilled wish, you recognize that the power of the Holy Spirit is so great, so wonderful, and so beautiful that you need never again lack for any good thing. And therefore we do not rely, as you do, upon the outer knowledge of mankind. We draw instantly upon the spiritual patterns which God has created in his wonderful engrams of consciousness, the recordings which themselves are magnetic and electronic, the fourth dimensional releases of every manifestation. And we have but to evoke or invoke these manifestations, and it is done on the instant, builded by the builders of form and angelic hands into the most wonderful substance, molded for God's glory and man's service. Precious ones, then, take heart, take hand, take head, and pledge all to thy holy Christ self and to the brothers of the golden robe. Seek for illumination's flame, and you shall find more than Ponce de Leon in his search for the fabled fountain of youth. You shall find not only eternal youth and eternal beauty, but you shall find eternal peace, and you shall find that ultimate victory to which all men must come, and one day they will. For the holy illumination flame of God shall spread through church and state and every place, and fill it all with holy peace and radiance fair. And men shall see the light of God streaming through the sunlight air, and angels descending, the light of God defending, shall hold inviolate their wondrous care, displaying to all the perfection of a child's holy prayer, the sincerity of heaven released in angel song. And all shall know and distinguish right from wrong, and see the face of deity expressed in you as expressed in me. I thank you and bid you good evening, sealing you with the cross of white fire substance in the bonds of immortal perfection, which cometh forth from God's Spirit and is your gift of love from our heart. vobiscum. May the peace of God be with you always. Thank you. And a holy and blessed good evening. Hail, legions of light, and light's perfection. I am come this day in the consciousness of mankind's great need, the needs of the hour, for an intensification of the bulwarks of faith, and the courage which will do and dare, and be silent as to the human accomplishments. Mankind of earth, you need and require the intense action of cosmic faith. You have had faith in outer manifestations, in the works of your own hands, and the products and inventions of your minds. But greater faith is required in God, the faith which originally was inscribed upon your coins. In God we trust. is intended to be inscribed upon the hearts of the American people, that the American people will arise not to betray the cause of freedom, but to diligently enhance the cause of freedom and to honor that divine intent which is manifest in the heart of your own beloved Saint Germain. Now, as I come to you this day, I have caused to be placed in the hand of this messenger in my name a sword which belongs to a young man who in this day and age has desired to serve the cause of freedom with his heart. I recognize full well the needs in this day and age for mankind to recognize and to diligently do all acts that will cause the swords of the world to be beat, as it were, into plowshares. Blessed ones, that mankind may harvest the fruit of the earth and bring forth in peace and a labor of love all that will put an end to the doom and gloom of war and bring the beautiful light of the holy Angelus of God swiftly into manifestation. Yet I say unto you, blessed ones, that the swords of the Spirit are needed. They are needed and required in order to fight the battle of life and obtain your victory. For the battles today are for the minds and hearts of men. They are fought with the powers of light and light's perfection in the overthrow of darkness and shadow, which would cause mankind to descend yet further into materiality as he is given greater and greater inventions, the product of his mind and of the moving wheel of the age. Yet today, mankind requires more and more fire from a spiritual standpoint and less of material things. Blessed ones, I do not mean that mankind are not to use and enjoy the products of their mind and the grace of God. What I mean is that they ought not to place the faith of their immortal being in mortal substance and in the changeable elements of the earth. They ought rather to place it in the hands of Almighty God and to consecrate themselves to useful service in His name. After all, beloved ones, you are aware of the great peace that comes to your hearts when you do God's service and pursue the various functions of His kingdom. Even here below, you are filled with gladness and joy in all that is manifestly beautiful and perfect, and you understand the need to sustain it. Now I would say unto you that a sword of light is indeed necessary for all to have, that they might cut themselves free from all outer actions which distress the mankind of earth and bring despair to their souls. Therefore, I hope that all of you will recognize that the sword of blue flame which I wield is indeed the fullness of the will of God and the faith of God, as it seeks to sever from the tree of life and protect the tree of life against all outer conditions which would destroy the beauty and the love of God's kingdom. The angels of my band, the defenders of the faith, will now join you here. They come in answer to my call for the defense of light, and therefore I say, I call unto light, I call unto light, and I call unto the angels of blue lightning to flood forth their radiance into your midst, that you may know that ere the golden eagle shall be able to mount up on wings into the fullness of God's perfect ideal, the mankind of earth must continue to defend the faith until every vestige and trace of human discord shall perish from the earth, and mankind himself shall arise to be clothed in the garments of the new age. This does not mean, blessed ones, that individuals cannot obtain their own victory. It means that the greater victory must be deferred until the entire planet and its people have accepted the fullness of the God ideal and dream of heaven for and on behalf of mankind. This dream by faith will be fulfilled, and that speedily, for it will sweep as a prairie fire across the hearts of the people of the world. But it is necessary for the smaller bands of God's children everywhere to unite themselves first of all with the fiery intensity of their own mighty God presence, and then with one another in a great unity of hearts that shall destroy complacency and human ideas and assert in their place the ascended Master's law to end all confusion of human manifestation and for all times bring to the world its own eternal and immortal victory. You are children of Saint Germain. You have had bestowed upon you throughout this class a tremendous outpouring of light, and yet I am determined, and all of heaven is determined, to give to you a tremendous assistance even now. Therefore I say, if you will extend your hearts to me, I will place in your hands a miniature sword of blue flame, that you may use it in my name and in the name of heaven to cut yourselves free from all entity control and all controls of discord which have for far too long caused mankind at various times to lose their own dependence, their own independence as it were, and has caused them to depend upon outer conditions and to stand in a dizzying whirl of confusion as a result of these discordant manifestations which are entities directed by the sinister force. I say to you, if you will pledge me your hearts and will stretch forth your hands, I will direct the angels of my band which are here, and they are far more than ye are, to place in your right hand a sword of blue lightning perfection, which you may wield in God's name for and on behalf of the sacred cause. I enlist ye all in my legions if you will accept it, for this is a special service, and yet one which not only first-ray men can participate in, but every son and daughter of heaven who desires to defend God's faith and be that perfect outpost of divine perfection which the ascended masters intend all to share. I say to you then, how shall you use this sword? Call first of all to your own God presence, then call directly to your holy Christ self for the infinite intelligence of your mighty I Am presence to be directed into the chalice of your waiting minds and hearts, and then know and rest assured that the perfect God direction shall come to you, and you shall realize that you have but to speak and say, Archangel Michael, give me your perfection and faith, and I will so do on the instant, bringing legions of blue lightning at your command to cut you free. But you must not practice any form of deceit if you will have this protection and perfection. You must not seek to do harm to any part of life, but only to defend the immortal faith of God. It is a strange thing, beloved ones, but there are many quirks existing in mankind's consciousness whereby they seem to desire to employ even the hosts of heaven in order to defend their own ideas. This is not necessary, beloved ones. You must defend but one idea, and that is God's idea, and make His ideas your own. And then I assure you that when you call for the power of the blue lightning, it will rush forth with such a mighty onrush of power as you have never before realized was possible. And you shall know at that hour that the angels of blue lightning and Archangel Michael are not only your friend, but the friend of every God-loving individual upon this planet, to sustain for all time for this nation and every nation that loves liberty and freedom the fullness of effective God control until the earth's victory is won and every son of heaven is crowned with that mighty crown of life which the Father shall bestow upon all. Blessed ones, in this hour of the world's peril, I trust that you shall not be shaken by any form of outer condition, but shall always call in full faith unto me, and know that I am nigh, even at the very door of your hearts. For as an archangel, I have sworn to defend the faith for every individual who loves the faith of God. But this faith must not be in human ideas and in human density, but in the infinite light that never fails of your own mighty I am presence. I say unto you then, let all thoughts and ideas point their way to the descent of the light of God from your own heart, and you shall find that the need to defend yourselves against outer conditions will be lessened as the onrush of cosmic power comes forth from your presence. You will find even then that it is less needful to call unto me, for there will be an automatic outpicturing of light's perfection around you, which shall make it exceedingly difficult for any penetration of unwanted substance to occur in your worlds. But should in some unguarded moment outer conditions seem to overpower you, you can then, because of the purity of your heart, call unto me, and I will answer you. Blessed ones, rest assured that the law shall meet all of your requirements, for the law is God, and God is the law of your life, the law of your very being. Accept this now in full faith, and know that the I am in you is God, and you will rest, not disconsolately, but in that all-consoling peace of the Lord Maha Chohan. Within a few hours, he shall reclaim the sacred fire jewel suspended in the atmosphere of this room, taking it to his retreat on Ceylon, where it reposed before being placed here. But we shall stand in the atmosphere of the city of Washington for 24 hours after its passing and after the end of the class, in order to bring our protecting love over the hearts of the American people in a very special way. And I think wherever you go and disperse throughout this land, you can safely carry my sword and know that Michael's love goes with it, for it seeks only the blessing of America and its people, and the people of the world, that all may be bathed in the light of God's heart, the golden illumination flame, whose action gladdens the heart of every angelic being with that infinite peace of the infinite love, of the infinite intelligence of Almighty God. In the name of Almighty God, I take my leave of you, and I bless you each one with the light from out the sun. I thank you, and I bid you a pleasant evening, wrapped in the peace of the first to the seventh ray, the all-enfolding presence of those who sing the master song of the ages, which is faith in divine love. I thank you. Blessed ones, the shining ones came, and they were not received save by the few. These that received them were given the golden elixir, and although they passed unnoticed and unrecognized across the fields of the world, journeying at times into the rude and craggy ranges of the mountains and in the wild lands, to dwell among the wolves and apart from men, they found peace, and their souls waxed strong in a sense of their immortal destiny. Such a man was John the Baptist, for greater until that hour had not been born. He was the voice of one crying in the wilderness, and his heart was full of ringing compassion, and the drops that poured from his lips of the water of immortal life was indeed welcomed by the thirsty multitudes. And so he came out of the wilderness, eating wild locusts and honey. Yet he was not received by all, for many could not accept him, for reasons of their prestige and their sense of the world's authority. They had their reputations to guard. They must carefully preserve the aspects of their own personal orbits. The sanctity of their human self and outer self-respect was more their concern than the great golden circle of light that would connect them with the realm of the immortals. Now, as I come to you this afternoon, I am aware of the pulse and the heartbeat of America and the American people. I am aware of the meaning of advanced communication and printing and the arts and sciences, which have made possible a greater dissemination of Holy Writ than was ever possible in past times. Now today, with the advent of all this scientific wonder, it would be possible for the great laws of God to be printed and sent abroad throughout the earth, that every thirsty traveler might welcome the water from God's own cup. But with all, it does not always seem possible, for there are not enough who support the sacred word, nor are there enough who are presently able to discern its value, or to recognize it, to cherish it, and to bind it upon their hearts. This is but their loss and their lack, and yet we are concerned for them because they are children of God as much as ye are, and in them is the connecting thread of life, and the threads of their destiny run through the fiber of the entire planet. Now in our cosmic councils and deliberations, which we hold so frequently, we discuss and muse together as you do as to how better to serve mankind and disseminate holy truth. We would call to your attention one of the most disturbing factors is the shape of mankind's vessels. They have their preconceived ideas and their concepts. And if our concepts should resemble the concept of their personal anathemas, we are rejected before we could even be heard. And so the door is closed to them who cannot recognize the truth long enough to hold its cup within their hand and cherish it enough to taste its flavor and partake of its elixir. It is true that ye are fortunate to have received this understanding. But then the question has arisen, how shall we be able in this day and age to encourage those who find certain aspects of divine truth unacceptable to them and other aspects most acceptable? How shall we present the strands of acceptability woven together with the non-acceptable strands, seeing they do not even agree in one individual, vacillating from time to time? Do you see, blessed ones? Not only do individuals differ concerning their likes and dislikes, but there are times when the moods of the same individual varies. And this does not present a very open door to us then, does it now? And yet we would help them, as you would, as the masters would, as their divine presence would. And so, in our councils, one of the peaceful thoughts that has come forth is this, which I present to you for its value. We have listened recently, and for many years, to the deliberations of the esoteric students, not only of this land, but of the world. And we have often heard a murmur which goes in this wise: well, we are not perfect yet. We have been on the path now for quite some time. But the masters know that we are not perfect yet. They cannot expect us to do everything just as they do. And thus they excuse themselves for the wrongs which they do, and console one another, and buoy one another up, reinforcing themselves in their own wrongdoings, to their undoing, I might add, and to the undoing of the plans of the Brotherhood. Now this is what happens, and I choose to say it most simply, for by simple thought, I feel that your consciousness will get the peaceful results that we are interested in your obtaining, shedding the golden light of illumination upon hidden factors, and bringing them into the full light of day. Then examining them, you may see the inherent strands of truth and do what you will about it in your own lives. Ye are my witnesses has been spoken of by the Most High. And of a truth, I think that mankind read you, blessed students of the light, more than they read our writings initially. And if they read you, who are supposed to be so representative of us, for they expect that you are, and we do also, and they find the flaws in you which exist in themselves, if these flaws be especially outstanding, and apparent, and sometimes vehement, you can well understand how that they might suffer some measure of disillusionment, and they might feel that the teachings themselves could not be too good, or you would be better examples of our light. Now, this was discussed in an open meeting before the Darjeeling Council as recently as the month of May. And beloved El Morya, in his forthright manner, was determined to take the forum and to tell the students exactly where they stood. Lord Maitreya interceded and pleaded with Morya to temper his own feelings in the matter, and therefore the magnificent address which he gave was the development and outcome of his own prayer and holy offering of his energies to God. And I think he gave a most noble exposition. And as a result of the deliberations and El Morya's decision, the gauntlet was passed to me, and they asked me to convey to the students the love of the entire Darjeeling Council, the recommendations of the Council, and the blessing of Christ's peace, for and on behalf of the golden oil of illumination, which ought to be in the lamp of every virgin life stream, who in honor of the Holy Virgin Queen, Mary, desired to keep the immortal covenant of the Immaculate Concept for themselves and for all life. So long as individuals hold to unholy thoughts about any part of life, they are contributing to the delinquency of that part of life. When individuals relinquish their crystallized concepts of mankind's weaknesses and hold a matrix of the God design in all of its jeweled-like simplicity and purity, they will not be so intent upon projecting criticism into the force field of another. With the cessation of criticism emanating from their world, it will come to pass that the golden flame of illumination from the fount of their own holy Christ self will rise up to the forehead of their being and come to the fore, there to make known to them the methods and the means whereby they may improve their own lives in all of its many areas and aspects. And then, as a token of God's love, to convey the vibratory action of their own Christ victory to the ones that otherwise they would have criticized, thus raising themselves and the erring one a step upon the ladder of life. Inasmuch as ye are the examples of the ascended masters, and the only examples which they can observe in the world of form, I think that all of you who are sincere will desire to reappraise your values and determine as to how you will arrange your lives in a manner calculated to inspire rather than to detract from the divine image. Our councils are composed of practical ascended beings. You may say to me, why? Was this not so carefully pinpointed and pointed out to us before. And I say with no rancor or bitterness. We have told you this often in various ways. But mankind, like all of us, need the ever recurring perspective of the all-seeing eye of God. You see, blessed ones, whenever the masters gaze upon human beings, they cannot avoid seeing the truth about an individual, the manifestation. We immediately, of course, lift our gaze up to the God presence of this individual. The fact remains that we have seen temporarily, and our thought is not condemnation, but correction. Not discouragement, but encouragement. Not complications, but simplification. Not confusion, but peace. When you think about it, blessed ones, all of the errors of the world, piled one upon another through the centuries, have never changed the nature of God. And yet, all of the beings of heaven and heaven's celestial realms with all of the immortal perfection have not yet washed out the stains of human thought and feeling. The reason, of course, is apparent. It requires the will summoned in the individual's own chaliced being to do so. We are forbidden by cosmic law to interfere beyond the point of our instruction and assistance. We cannot pull men and women by the ear. Some of the masters have tugged upon the hearts of men. Some of the masters have directed golden arrows of illumination into the minds of men. The final victory of each individual must come from his own summoned determination, his own continuous application, his own keeping on. Therefore, today, I am reappraising this activity and the activities of light, recommending that all activities of light and all individuals who love light shall consider themselves from this day forward as a mannequin in a showcase, an exhibit before humanity, a gazing stock upon which the world looks for light and courage and strength and virtue and purity and the holy light of reason beaming forth as from the brow of the goddess of liberty and the goddess of wisdom and the goddess of purity. While we cannot do this for you, we can hold this concept for you. This we do, and therefore this day, in memory of that magnificent bard, Thomas Moore, and your own beloved Moria, in memory of the harp that rang through Tara's hall, I place a golden harp within the thought world of each one of you. This golden harp with 7 strings, worn by one of the actors in your drama of Nuremberg, is placed in miniature within your thought being within your mental body, there to remind you of the need to express the golden harmony of the ages and to be an example of our light to those you contact. Thus shall we overcome the brittleness of the intellect by the shining light of cosmic example sent forth with the love of the ascended Master Jesus and charged with Holy Mary's radiance, a message of infinity to a finite world who longs for a light of hope in the window of being. I have opened the windows of heaven for you this day, and I have dropped through that precious window drops of oil from wisdom's holy fount. Its application is intended to last you all the days of thy life, that thou and all men may dwell in the goodly house of our God, your own mighty I Am presence, forever and forever and forever. I thank you, and in wisdom's name bid you good afternoon. The power of descending faith, the consecration of God into man, which raises the might of God and his invincible armor of protection for the defense of all the virtue which immortal life has ever destined to be outpictured. I am come charging you all then with a mighty power of faith in God and his power to perform every act of consecrated reality which will strip from all mankind their faith in lesser appearances and give them their invincible and divine right to be kings over the kingdom of God within themselves, that they may know and be the fullness of that perfection which God ordained long before the form appeared. As I come to you this day, it is to remind you that in faith is the power to raise the dead. Now in your day and age, very few have seen examples of this action, and yet throughout the long history of mankind's experiences upon this planet, at various and divers times, illumined masters and great beings have performed these acts before the eyes of mankind, and they have marveled as they beheld the marvelous exposition of the faith of the divine being who performed the act of raising the dead. Yet mankind's consciousness, surrounded as it is by a momentum of doubt, shortly after witnessing the so-called miracle of life being restored to an individual, would begin to whisper its insidious messages into the recesses of mankind's consciousness in order to destroy the very fact that the act had occurred and cause that one to return to their old crystallized state of doubt and questioning. Now, precious ones, your life streams have witnessed most magnificent and miraculous acts which have been performed for you by your own divine presence from the beginning of your life unto this present moment, and I do not think that they shall now cease, but choose rather to believe in full faith and to infuse you with that belief that they shall begin to manifest in ever greater responses to the calls and fiats which you make to God. And this is fitting, for as man progresses in his understanding of the Creator and the Creator's purposes, he is able to enlarge the powers of his perception and to draw forth from God a greater and wider stream of energy, a more concentrated momentum of faith, goodwill, and immortal purpose. Thus, man is able to do the so-called Herculean tasks which the great law requires that shall be performed in this day and age in order to awaken mankind from the lethargy of the senses and the dismal sleep of the ages, which has in no way manifested the perfection which God intends the universe to share. The segments of the universe still living in what we might term primeval states and primitive states of consciousness are many, and it is necessary for mankind to understand that in one sense these areas of the universe are incubators in which are hatched divine ideas, many of these ideas being destroyed or eaten by the cannibalistic actions of mankind, so that they never come to fruition and are never recognized for the intention of God. Blessed ones, we want you to know that this is not the divine intent to have these areas remain as they have been, but rather to exalt every planet in all the universe to the place where the people of that planet will know the fullness of their God freedom. And yet it is necessary for a child to be taught. It is necessary for men to learn and to experience some vicissitudes in life, that they may recognize and appreciate the perfect manifestation when it comes forth. You see, beloved ones, although the infinite mind of God conceived only of a jewel-like perfection, the very fact that mankind have surrounded the immortal jewels with the substance of misqualified and shadowed energy presents to their consciousness many elements of discord, which by contrast to the radiance of the white light of God and the many sacred fire colors, does cause mankind to desire and prefer the spiritual radiance to the dismal action of the carnal mind. And yet, if it were not for this contrast, mankind would not fully appreciate all the media of heaven
in its mighty radiance and outpouring. For those who have passed into an octave that is made a little lower than the angels are able, when they are once again crowned with more glory, to really love the bounties of heaven and to esteem them with a greater power of devotion. By this power of devotion, mankind then are able to summon the mighty energies of God to sweep into their being and to lift them up as inspiration and aspiration into higher octaves of divine consciousness. Otherwise, blessed ones, if there were no incentive to those ascended beings to proceed in a progressive manner into the unfoldment of their own godhood, how would it be that individuals would set forth the efforts? Therefore, it is required that the very elements of cosmic adventure, which are locked in the heart of God, shall also be externalized in the creation, making men willing to have that high courage and bold adventure which sets them apart from those mediocre individuals who are content to bask in a dismal radiance of the human realm and the human thoughts of mankind and human effluvia, with all of its doubts, its despair, and its spirit of competition. I tell you, ladies and gentlemen, when you enter the octave of light and the realm of your ascension, you will take note that many of the ascended beings are not equal in their externalization of the manifestations of God's power, but they are progressing onward into the infinite realms of divine light. That is why I am an Elohim, because I too have passed through the various initiations required to establish for me this particular and specific office which I hold in this system. I say to you then, you do not know how it may be possible for you to climb in the great cosmic scale and to manifest that which you presently shall be. You do not now see clearly face to face, but the hour shall come when you shall know even as you are known. You shall know the divine image and the mighty plans which God holds for you. In the initiatic process of cosmic initiations, the very ideals of that initiation are not revealed until a manifestation of God, a cosmic being or an ascended being, is ready for that specific initiation. For we do not ever desire to generate discontent in any part of life, and therefore there is always the moment of unveiling, when the ascended being is taught that there is a higher step, a specific step which is attainable for him, and with the revelation the necessary cosmic efforts are put forth by that one, and when the time has come for graduation, that ascended being is then lifted up a step higher in the peerage of heaven, where men and women of God are noble lords and ladies of God's kingdom because of the divine merit and divine will harnessed into action, as above, so below. And it could not be so upon this planetary body. One of the major problems facing the world today is the desire for mankind to excel, but so many wish to excel without effort. They desire recognition by mankind of their life stream. They do not realize that this is the divinity within them clamoring for recognition from their own outer self. And yet they transfer this into a reverse action, whereby they seek to attract attention to themselves and desire to compete with their fellows, generating thereby a frightful karma when the wrong action of the law is followed out, and a spirit of universal world discontent is entered into. Mankind today do not realize the tremendous bulk of energy which is thrown off by their actions in the world of form from day to day, which energy becomes a most discordant manifestation and is tied into by countless millions of people who become, as it were, drunken upon the dregs of others' wrongdoing, and therefore confused and know not how to walk in a right and proper manner. Religion itself, intended to be a means of the emancipation of mankind, has become at times, through fear, a ritual of confusion, whereby mankind, entering into a fear vibration, seek to save the personal self, and thereby lose their own life and identity temporarily in a maze of confusion. You have an expression here below, which of course is not pleasing to heaven, and I am certain is not pleasing to you. I shall only use the expression for what it may denote to your consciousness of the action of animalism in mankind's consciousness. You sometimes call this world a rat race, and blessed ones, this is certainly far from the plan of God, who desires to see mankind exalted into their own godhood, and not to seek for competition, and to seek to express anger and dismay with one another if their expectations are not unfolded properly at a given moment, when the human thinks that it is necessary to expect that a certain individual will perform a specific function. Mankind in their demands are often most insidious, for they will pour out what appears to be love to an individual in order to secure some specific benefit. And when they find that that benefit does not appear at the precise instant that they expect it, they are ready to rend that individual, as it were, limb from limb. Well, I say to you, O mankind of earth, integrity, honor, justice, purity, and opportunity must be accepted by mankind. There is no religion upon the planetary body that would dare to teach otherwise if the founders of that faith were in possession of the full facts of the laws of heaven. It is never possible to do ill and to have benign results. Whensoever an individual acts according to the human consciousness and the realms of human creation, he cannot help but manifest an act which will later bring about the manifestation of human discord in his thought and feeling world. Human thought and feeling, then, is not to be desired by mankind. They must learn to rise above the human level of solving their problems and seek to find in the realm of their God self the full range of cosmic expression and dominion, obtaining their victory from God, which is a permanent and rightful dominion over the entire earth. You have heard it said that the meek shall inherit the earth, for the Nazarene taught thus in his dissertations upon the hillsides of Judea. But I have come today to affirm this teaching, that the meek shall inherit the earth. It is not necessary for you to be violent in your expressions, for you can, by the meekness of God in outer expression, be most violent indeed, but let it be a violence of calling forth the purity of your own cosmic life stream, the purity of your God presence. I do not refer here to an outer act of violence, but I refer to an inner act of diligence, of fealty, of intense strength, of magnification, of understanding, and the whole fiber of the Godhead, which ought to be anchored in man. When this is used and the human is left to one side, mankind will find that their problems simply disappear into thin air, because their God self is taking full command. You see, beloved ones, the powers of heaven still function in the octave of the human. We have simply withdrawn, as it were, from the human level in order to permit you to work out your own salvation with a certain amount of fear and trembling, in obedience to the great law. When you refuse to learn according to the masterful divine plan, heaven has no choice but to leave you to suffer the upsets which you create, and thereby learn through experience to channel your energies into the proper method of developing your spirituality, rather than using the energy which God gives you to send forth discord into the universe. Blessed ones, I am come this day then to teach you the supreme virtue that can be found in solving your problems by turning them over to God, and then proceeding according to the leading of the intelligence of the higher Christ mind to do your part to work them out. Mankind must work as a team with the Creator. They must indeed as one of your individuals in this place said, be a co-creator with God. This has been said before, and it is a great truth of universal love, for the very fact that God has identified man so closely with himself and has prepared such wonderful gifts to be bestowed upon mankind ought to make each heart upon the planetary body beat with celestial happiness and awareness of the power of the Godhead. No one ought to fear the manifestation of a heavenly being. No one ought to fear because I, an Elohim of God, choose to descend this day in response to the invitation of the Darjeeling Council and bring you the benefit of my radiance, of my power, and of my momentum of victory and service for the great light. For after all, blessed ones, when you meet on higher levels and you come to the place where you yourself are an ascended being, will you not be able to see me face to face and to know the love that I bear for you and for the mankind of earth? You will say unto me then, beloved Hercules, I recall well that Sunday when you spoke to us and inspired us to solve our problems by effective God control. I recall how that after that meeting I vowed and I determined that I would no longer act according to the human level and defend myself against the depredations of mankind by the poison of human experience. I determined that I would place myself under effective God control and the radiance of my own mighty I Am presence. I determined that I would not be victimized by those who were victims of psychic experiences. I determined that I would find my freedom in the simplicity of the Godhead, my own mighty I Am presence revealed to me in the unfailing light of God that flooded forth through my heart's chalice and made me victor right where I am. Beloved ones, in view of this fact that the power of your victory is in your mighty I Am presence, why is it necessary for so many of the student body to permit themselves to come under the direct intervention of the sinister force by reading those particular publications which are a direct manifestation of the psychic plane and the astral plane, and which can never at any time give you your freedom? I, who have cleaned up, as it were, the Aegean stables, who understand the Herculean task of cleaning up this planet and all of its effluvia of wrong momentum, say to you that if mankind were to understand the human filth and degradation that is poured through in a hidden and recessed manner into the psychic channels, they would appreciate the value of holding themselves firmly anchored to their own mighty I Am presence, and knowing that that presence is able to fulfill all the requirements of their being and to meet every need without fail. Your beloved Jesus and your beloved Saint Germain understand the great truth of that which I speak. They know the purity of this activity. They know the purity of these life streams who are serving here in the heart center. They know that their purity is not anchored in the repository of their human self, but in their great divinity. And they know that that divinity that is in them is in you also as the student body, and but requires the evocation of the mighty law of life in order to release it into manifestation. You can never know your freedom unless you depend upon God in a most magnificent manner. You must be a magnificent being in order to attract the magnificence of your own divine self, and you can be by imitation of cosmic virtue. This is not desecration to imitate the sun in its shining and to be a light right wherever you are. This is a holy honor bestowed upon the heart of your presence, and it will bear fruit in a greater manifestation of the law of life in your being as that law begins to outpicture in all your daily affairs. You know, blessed ones, there was a couple of individuals in this place that because of some of the previous addresses that were given by various beings from the realm of light in the etheric level, had the idea that I might bring forth a little bit of impracticality today. They felt that perhaps I might shout at them and actually almost frightened them by the tremendous release of my power. Well, I hope that I have shown you that I am not only an Elohim charged with the power of God, but I also have the fullest reverence and respect for the immortal intelligence of God, and I also have the fullness of his mighty chalice of love bestowed upon me. Therefore, in my love today, I share with you not only my faith in the Godhead and in your own mighty I Am presence, but I share with you those gems of spiritual intelligence whose luster can shine as sacred fire jewels down the channels of days that are ahead for each of you until you step from the veil of flesh and the realm of the physical octave into the immortality of your own wondrous God self and become an ascended being. Precious ones, this is a long awaited for event, and every life stream must wait until the fullness of that time has come, when the Godhead himself, recognizing the attainment and aspiration of the individual, speaking from cosmic levels, saith, "Come up higher," and the individual rising then, fully prepared for the blessed act, the act of the sacrament administered by God, drinks into the fullness of their Godhead and receives the wonderful garment and vestment of the ascension, whereby their physical form can itself drop all the appearance of age and all appearance of decay, and the blood within their veins can turn to the wondrous radiance of the golden luminous presence of the ascended masters, and they will find that there is no longer weight attached to their body, but only the wondrous power of light surging in never-ceasing currents of celestial power through the tabernacle of their being. Rising then into the air, they enter a complete divine reunion with the blissful state of their own mighty I Am presence, and find the flowing forth of their love to the humanity remaining beside and behind them is very great. For they then know, in full gratitude to their own divine self, that the light of God that has raised them will also raise those remaining behind. And they feel a desire, as it were, to capture all those individuals remaining yet in form and substance with all of the pain of the human octave and raise them into their victory. And yet the great law must be adhered to, as every son of heaven has found out, and they must perform in patience the act of possessing their own immortality, remaining by cosmic law at the higher levels and waiting for the responses of humanity to the light that is poured out according to the great law. You see, blessed ones, if heaven had its way, it would shower mankind with so much light that we would actually raise you into the victory of your ascension right now and long ago. But this would not serve to give you your freedom, but it would create a condition resembling a cosmic incinerator. After all, blessed ones, we are not interested in the disintegration of the very fabric of your being. For unless an individual is ready for their ascension, to contact the Godhead in that manner would but be to destroy them and cause them to have no physical body to exist in, and they would find it necessary then to re-embody. So you see, beloved ones, mankind must wait for the fullness of time, that they may be clothed with the vestures and vestments of immortality. This is best brought about by obedience to the precepts of heaven. For when the acts of man are like unto the acts of God, he in his great love can infuse them with his great power and wisdom. To do so prematurely would but be to lodge in their hearts the immortal fire substance, which acting like radium would not bring them into their immortality, but would cause them to fade away from the screen of life prematurely. For these foci of light must be anchored safely, sacred fire jewels placed in the body and consciousness and being of man as he is ready to receive them. Therefore, your readiness is the perpetual need. Your recognition of the need to study and to show yourself approved unto God. Your recognition of the fact that you ought to also serve the great law of love with all of your heart and with all of your mind and with all of your being and with all of your soul. After all, blessed ones, after a few short years, most of you intended, according to the Christian idea of theology, to enter into a state of heaven where you would abide with God forever. Seeing then that no man knows the day nor the hour when this can come about, would it not be a part of discretion itself, and heavenly discretion at that, for mankind to recognize the vast cosmic potential which they have and offer themselves to God in advance rather than wait for the trumpet to blow and summon them higher? I think then, blessed mankind of earth, if you would only let go of your fears and frustrations, you would find that though you were given only a moment of life, or 10,000 years, that moment would be freedom. For you would have the wonderful feeling to know that in committing yourselves to the care and keeping of your own Creator, you no longer had to worry about all of the things that you now worry about and are concerned about. You would recognize then that you would share in His responsibility, but you would also share in His mighty shower of power, which descending upon your life stream would fill you with the effulgence not only of the first ray of power and faith, but also with a divine intelligence poured out without limit upon your blessed souls, until the love ray of God itself became the champion of your identity, the defender of your faith, and you no longer sent forth the vibratory action of human discord and all of the doubts and fears which mankind have. Do you know, blessed ones, there are so many metaphysical activities on the world that delve into try to discover various actions concerning the identity of mankind in previous embodiments, all the while not seeking to discover the glories of the future of the individual. I tell you, blessed ones, you must step forth from the chrysalis of the present hour and obtain your victory now. There is no other way, and the way is anchored in your own mighty I Am presence, and in the mighty tree of life that presence is. Cut yourself off not then from that power and that God source, but obtain the eternal power of regeneration, and know that it lies not in human wisdom or in human pride, but it lies in the submission of mankind to the glory of God, who will then instantly, as it were, raise that one into the full dominion which He longs to confer, and which He has not been able to do simply because the human has insisted on having its own way, to the dismay of the individual, even the body elemental itself having turned itself away and veiled its face at times from the individual because of the lack of faith which they have demonstrated. Precious ones, as I take my leave of you now, I tell you that this day shall hold some surprises for you, even as my address held some surprises for you. For I have brought to you today some of the secrets of immortality, and have conveyed them to you in worded expression. They are here, if you will seek to discover them. They can be made your own, and they are spoken from the sincere heart of an Elohim for the sake of beloved Jesus and His mighty love to mankind, for the sake of your own Saint Germain and his great love of freedom, and for all of the ascended and angelic host whose love is legions of light. I thank you, blessed ones, for your attention, and I commend you into the keeping of your divine presence, who neither slumbers nor sleeps, but will always keep all that is real about you activated by the power of light, until in the illustrious annals of cosmic progress you shall make your mark for and on behalf of your own God identity. I thank you, and with a cosmic cross of blue fire I seal you in the holy radiance of God's will. Let men think, if they will, that it is not I that speak. In the realms of the angelic host it is recorded that I have spoken, and I am Hercules, the friend of God and the friend of all who love Him. I thank you, and I bid you good morning.
my heart, friends, softly glows the light of the divine presence as God draws nigh unto the heart of each one of you to hold you close in that cosmic embrace which generates in you awareness of His love, the levels of human intensity, the degree of fervor of human love could never in all eternity, blessed ones, approximate the magnificent outpouring which God has given to those weary pilgrims who, having tired of the consciousness of the mundane, have sought to find a refuge in the light of their souls. There is a statement and inscription in Latin called Stella Maris. The mother of the world is a starry mother whose intense light action tugs at the hearts of God's children until they cast themselves upon Him, forsaking all of their weariness, all of their human feelings, their discontents, and the fogs and illusions of life that prevent the penetration of the mighty ideal of immortality. The fair robes of the cosmic vision, in all their blazing radiance, step forth now from the veil of flesh and mortal consciousness to reveal an eye picture of the God being of every man. Fix your gaze upon this chart and recognize there the intense and fiery action of your divine self, your mighty I Am presence, as that presence draws nigh unto you. As you draw nigh unto God, so He draws nigh unto you. But in the center of the chart, as you gaze upon the rays emanating therefrom, in the complete circle of 360 degrees, feel the pulsations of the living, tangible light rays of your God presence. This does not require a lusty imagination, but an intense and fiery devotion to that reality of God which exists and is the consummate glory of eternity, fired into the crystal
identity of the individual manifestation and creating the fire mist and the fire crystal. Out of the pure intensity at the center of your divine presence, pour the mighty light rays to reach and contact every part of the universe. And there is no part of the universe that is removed from contact at any moment with your own divine presence. Your presence is at all times in direct contact with the mighty I Am presence of every individual located not only upon your planet, but upon every system of worlds existing everywhere. And this applies not only to the realms of space and time, but into those infinite realms of creation, including a state of nirvana. The connecting power to draw the human self into immediate contact with your God self is that mighty life stream, that stream of cosmic energy which pours down from your God presence and passes through the center of your head down into the chalice of your heart. Are you not then, at this moment, connected, blessed ones, with your own God self? Do you not feel that connection? Well, if you cannot feel it, blessed ones, for some reason, just know that it exists. And by your acknowledgement of that presence, I think we can generate a more intense action that may remove from the consciousness of some of you those impediments which we desire to remove from the consciousness of all, permitting an inflow of the cosmic light of God, that the preeminence of your God self may assert itself into the reality of your being, giving you a baptism of the white fire radiance that is your immortal presence. When that God presence descends thus through this sacred fire element and infuses immortal fire substance into your own individual form self, your four lower bodies come into a consonance of spirit, a more complete attunement with the mighty outpouring of your individualized I Am presence. Then you are more aware of the infinite power of that presence as it pours forth its light in pulsating waves, flooding the entire universe. And as you gaze upon this chart, you will see then no ordinary eye picture composed of mere pigmented substance, but you will see the glowing causal colors of your own causal body as they move with electronic light and power. You will feel the reality, the sparkling ardor of your God presence as your God presence pours His love to you, and you will feel the power, the jeweled scepter of authority that is given to all who seek it and desire to assert dominion over outer human conditions, so that the individual may no longer be a puppet bouncing upon the string of human ideas and concepts, but may be an immortal eye picture of their own God self wherever they may be. You cannot imagine, blessed ones,
just what this will mean to Saint Germain and the great Karmic Board, to have the fullness of the outpicturing of your own divine self manifesting here. Oh, we do not care, blessed ones, if you do not stay here very long after that radiance pours down, for we are most content to have you ascend into our octave and be a part of the sacred fire itself in manifestation in the heavenly octaves. We assure you that you will certainly lose nothing except a sense of human frustration and a sense of impatience which mankind by nature exhibit as a result of their long absence from the immortal spheres of heaven from whence they came. For I call to your attention that the weight of your physical body and the dense substance which composes it has caused many of mankind to feel a great longing for their own cosmic reunion. The hour then that shall come when they shall rise in arms of light into the glorious ritual of the ascension, to feel the pulsating light rays which now are sometimes hidden from you, and to permit all of the stops upon the great cosmic organ to be pulled out, and to permit the mighty bellows of the Holy Spirit to swell, that you may feel the crescendo of cosmic praise for the mighty outworkings of your own life, which comes then into greater revelation as the infinite being of God, and not the puny human with all of the brittleness and crystal activity of the shattering human intellect as it comes into contact with illumination's own holy flame. Blessed ones, the masters who have preceded me have spoken in this wise, and the knowledge has been vouchsafed unto mankind throughout this class, that you may be able to find the power to summon your own God presence at will, and to seek and pursue him with the utmost diligence that is at your command. This will not only honor your beloved Saint Germain and assure the connection of yourself with the mighty tree of life, but it will also bring to you the fruit of the Spirit, which is love and joy and peace, under the aegis of the Holy Spirit and the starry radiance which is conferred by the touch of your God flame to your brow. I am come this night to exalt the mighty God presence in you all. I am come this night to flood forth to the world a new sense of glorious cosmic liberty. I am come this night to infuse in the hearts of mankind a greater degree of longing for reunion with their own cosmic realm, so that they will feel the comforting presence of immortality which surrounds mankind as the frail bark of his being sets forth and sails forth into the realm of physical embodiment, that they will feel the comforting presence of the angelic host, that they will know that mankind is not only surrounded by guardian angel presences from the hour of birth, but all the way through his own lifetime. However, because of the power of habit and custom, and because mankind have not recognized the glorious gifts of the Holy Spirit, the spiritual eyes of mankind have frequently closed long before the age of 7 is reached by the incoming child, and so the angelic presences are no longer visible unto mankind. And now, with a hope for better things, I say, in God's holy name, bring forth now this young child, that I may witness him before this altar,
and let him stand before the picture of his God sponsor, the beloved ascended Master El Morya. He is arrayed in clean white substance, and this, I now say, shall become by the power of light itself, that infinite power which is woven on the looms of heaven. And therefore I command that garment at inner levels to become the blazing white light substance which is worn by the ascended masters, and I command it to be made the radiance of God's light, and to flood forth its power of protecting radiance into his life stream. I ask that he be brought now closer to the picture of his sponsor. In the name of Saint Germain, the mighty God of freedom for the earth, and by the power of all cosmic virtue vested in the heart of God, I say, this child is the self of all mankind, for all children and all people are the self of all mankind and of all manifestation of light and of God. Let the child be brought now unto me, that by a baptism of pure white cosmic fire I may confer upon him his own right and proper name to be used throughout this embodiment and for the purposes of his divine manhood. In the name of the entire spirit of the great white brotherhood, I christen thee by the power of the Spirit of life, Sean Christopher, prophet, to be and to have the scepter of divine authority conferred upon you as you will accept it from on high. Your mission is known unto Saint Germain and the hierarchy. Long before you ever drew breath in this tabernacle of skins which you wear, we knew you in your shining radiance as a golden one. And we have together sat in Holy Communion before the presence not only of the Maha Sahib, but in the cosmic councils of the Buddha. Therefore I say unto thee, I bring to thee a holy charge this night, reminding thee of the cosmic mission which is given to all mankind to fulfill. I say unto thee, the light of God never fails, and thy light shall not fail so long as thou wilt hold the hands of heaven. The hands of heaven will hold thy own, and we will honor thee with that light which is thy externalized radiance of the past, until we welcome thee home. May thy mission also bear the fruit of the Holy Spirit, and may God say unto thee when thou returnest home, Well done, thou good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful in a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Peace be upon thee and upon all who behold this scene as I dedicate thy life unto the immortal presence of thy God self. Thou art not a detractor, for thy mission shall not rob any of their glory, but shall embellish all who shall receive thy love.
with the fullness of the love of their own presence. I commend thee now unto the hands of thy Father, who art in heaven, even as thou camest forth from thy mother, so art thou the offspring of God, and so is every man. Let all see in this sweet picture of childhood innocence the virtue of their own immortality as it is externalized from day to day in the God manifestation seeking expression from within their heart. In memory of the words of the Christ I say, ye must be born again. And that birth can occur day after day as you draw forth the fiery radiance of God and invoke Him. You are not in a state of hopelessness or helplessness, but in an ever-present state of cosmic wonder. For there is none among you or upon the planet who cannot, if they will, draw forth from their own heart the power of their own divine presence, that it may express here all that God intends that one to be. Won't you please be seated? Now, blessed ones, as I continue to pour out my love to you in the breathing awareness of your presence, I ask you to forget the consciousness of your physical self. I ask you to forget your earthly identity, for we would have you assume the mode of your cosmic destiny. I ask you now to look up above you in consciousness, 1,000 feet in the air above you. There is established a tremendous focus of liberty's flame. It is my wish that all upon earth who love liberty shall be baptized by that flame this night and shall imbibe a greater quantity of cosmic liberty than has ever before expressed upon this planet. Therefore I say to the mighty angel devas who have control according to God's direction of that flame of liberty to bring it down to the 500-foot level, and the fiery intensity of that flame shall be felt in greater measure by all who are here. I say now, let us bring that flame down to the 300-foot level. I say now, let us bring that flame down to the 100-foot level. I say now, let us bring that flame momentarily into this room. In conscious awareness of your own cosmic identity, by forgetting your own identity and seeing yourself as a pulsating being of light, enter then into the liberty of God. As ye drink the cup of outpoured liberty, the liquid light substance of God's liberty, offered to you now by the power of the Holy Spirit, charged with the love of the Mahachohan, I say to all, take in your right hand my torch. While I weary not of holding this torch for mankind, it is the wish of the Karmic Board that all who are able by the power of faith shall hold steadfastly to the torch of cosmic liberty that is as much yours as it is my own. I am your cosmic mother, and I urge you to do your part wherever you are, to defend holy liberty against those who would desecrate her ideals. I urge you to recognize that you can tie into the cosmic momentum of all individuals who have ever served the cause of liberty down through the centuries to the present hour. Therefore, to continue my address, I request that you lower your hands and take your songbooks in hand and sing to the liberty flame to the tune of La Marseillaise. The number is 62. Sons of light, awake to glory, God's legions are now come again. Perfection story, the plan divine and goal of all men, as they aspire, so Christ takes command. And God's great light will banish the shadows that now enfold this planet round. As man bursts his bonds asunder, the bells of freedom will resound. All rise, God now call for peace and liberty. Truth we know, light is supreme, and master over all. O God of light, we loved I am in us, come now in mercy, set us free. We now invoke in adoration thy gift of liberty. Within our hearts let it now take command. To thee, dear call of the nation, and brothers of the ministry, the heart of this mighty focus, of love, of flame on earth so sweet, love's power and wisdom too, this mighty sound is true. Please now away, the labor over all. Please be seated. You have heard it said, beloved one, that the hour is coming, and now is, when they that are in the graves shall hear the voice of the Son of God, and they who hear shall live. In symbolical interpretation, you can recognize, O mankind, that until man is clothed with the vestures of immortality, consciously conferred and received, he is yet enshrouded by the death of outer appearances, which is not the manifestation of God's life. And therefore the voice of the Holy Christ self, the Son of God, speaking its words of divine intelligence and guidance to the form and individuality and self below, can so guide each man by the divine directing intelligence which the Holy Christ self or your higher mental body is able to confer, that you will know the perfect action to take to govern every outer condition and each situation as it arises. We do not wish the students of this activity and friends of Saint Germain to be buffeted by the wiles of mankind. We do not desire to see you trampled upon by those who do not have the understanding of their presence. We desire to see you walk as children of the light, and to hold in your hearts the compassion of God for those who do not have that illumination which is given unto you. We desire to see you so magnificently robed in the charity of God that wherever you go, there will burst forth, not necessarily visibly, but certainly tangibly to be felt, a flame of such cosmic love and intensity that the mankind you come in contact with will never again feel the same dense vibratory action which they have manifested hitherto in their lives. Each one of you can become, if you will accept it, a white firestone, a touchstone of God, to touch those with whom you come in contact with the coals of heaven's altars, and to infuse them with the subtle yet tangible power of God in manifestation within you. How else, I ask in God's name, shall we spread the message of the eternal kingdom except through the power of your own God-victorious happiness, the qualities of light which make you different than others of mankind, conferring upon you, however, the self-same image which God will ultimately bestow upon all. It is but a short space of time before all mankind, presently in embodiment, shall find their way home. For with God, one day is indeed as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. Therefore, in your patience, O mankind, possess your souls, and know that the fullness of your God self, which shall tonight bless you with pulsations of my flame of liberty, is indeed desirous of seeing a great expansion of this light and power everywhere, that your Saint Germain and the great White Brotherhood may become known and revered, loved by the mankind of earth, whom they have served for so long, without so much as a thought of gratitude expressed from the hearts of mankind. Rather, they have received derision and mockery and the laughter of souls whose advancement does not make them worthy to so much as touch with their lips a goblet out of which they have drunk. Yet, O mankind, there is no greater desire in the ascended masters than to see and know that the emancipation of all mankind is an accomplished fact, a fait accompli. So, I say then tonight, let us decree that all mankind may know and feel that they have their freedom and liberty, their immortal freedom and liberty, at hand this very moment. Will you join me in these words? Give me your tired, your poor. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses, yearning to breathe free. Your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. I lift for them a beacon light forevermore. I lift for them a beacon light forevermore, that its chaliced radiance may this moment be. That its chaliced radiance may this moment be. That light forevermore, that light forevermore, which all can now see, which all can now see. And may they be, O Father great, the fullness of thy love. And may they be, O Father great, the fullness of thy love, that this nation under God, that this nation under God shall know that in the stillness of this hour, in the stillness of their hour, I am God. I am God. I am showering you with the water element in purification of your lives, that ye too may be baptized with the white fire radiance flooding forth to all lives. I am showering you with a mother's love, and its testimony is recorded in the heart of Neptune, king of the water element. For I decree this night, for all who will accept it, a greater measure than ever before of the balancing of their emotional body. I thank you and I bless you with the divine spirit of cosmic balance, for this need must be fulfilled ere all shall be that which will make possible so great a revelation as the world has never known before. From a mother's heart, the heart of a cosmic mother, I send forth the emanations of my compassion. May we temper the action of the karmic board for all, wherever possible. And may mercy stand shoulder to shoulder with justice, that God's will be done and the time be shortened for the travail of the world. This prayer which you have made, blessed ones, from a multitude of hearts, has not gone unheard. And so we speak our fiats to the world, that all may know, in the peace of the Lord Maha Chohan, the snow-white radiance of the dove of cosmic purity, that God's eye is watching over you. I thank you and bless you with the peace of this hour. Good night. God love you. God bless you, and may you abide in liberty forever.